The empire's nobles were drinking, and the corporate guards were reveling. But we slaves were herded deep into the mine, hiding in the darkness like rats. But I wasn't an ordinary rat. I understood pharmacology. I could concoct a powder that let people sense the force. I could also kill 2 in 10 seconds. Clean and quick. They planned to shut down the mine and execute all the mine slaves. Fine. Then tonight, while they were drunk, I would turn this mine into my escape route. My name is Dushio, 17 years old, a mine slave at the Imperial Ninth Empire's Lina District, Ma Consortium's secret tungsten mine. Yes, the kind of slave worth less than grass, who could die in a mine at any moment. But this slave was a little different. I knew a bit of alchemy. With that skill, even the mine guards had to call me Little Sir. But Little Sir cannot save a life, especially on the day of the endowment ceremony. Endowment ceremony, November 24th. This is the grandest festival in the entire human empire, commemorating how our ancestors, 10,000 years ago, betrayed the Creator God, stole wisdom and greed, and transformed from divine slaves into free people. Every city in the empire was reveling, and even this godforsaken wilderness mine, the Ma Consortium's guards had prepared a feast. But this feast had nothing to do with us mine slaves. The first thing they did before their revelry was to drive us all into the mine shafts. The morning wind at the mine cut like a knife against my face. I wrapped tighter the wool coat I'd stripped off some corpse. Standing at the mouth of the mine, I watched the guards on the distant watchtower, cigarettes dangling from their mouths, heavy machine guns in hand, scanning the crowd with bored indifference. Mine slaves crawled out of shacks in every direction, tramping through the slush of black ash and snowmelt, their faces wooden as they gathered at the entrance. Their eyes were hollow. The baskets on their backs held barely any miwu or to turn in. Everyone knew what it meant to be driven into the mine today. The guard wanted to drink, to have fun. Last year, during the annual celebration, a few drunk guards dragged some slaves out to the open ground and used them for target practice. The bodies froze into ice sculptures, still standing in the snow the next day. Hurry up, you pigs. The guard's whip cracked through the air. Day off today. You lot can stay nice and cozy in the mine shaft all day long. Don't you dare crawl out halfway and ruin our fun, or I swear you'll die a miserable death. The crowd stirred, scrambling to squeeze into the shaft as if it were a sanctuary. And in a way, it was for us at least. The dark, damp mine shaft was safer than the guards with their guns. I hung back, not rushing with the others. Next to me, Lien Ruafei, built like a black bear, shoved over and slapped my shoulder. He was my brother. From the orphanage to sleeping on the streets, to being sold by traffickers to the corporation's mines, we'd always stuck together to keep warm. His frame was bigger than mine, and he fought hard. He wasn't as sharp-witted as I was, but he had a tough life. Got the powder? Lien Ruafei asked, lowering his voice. I patted my bulging backpack, which held 2 bags of half-finished Primal Force potion, strictly speaking. Not even worth calling half-finished. I patted my bulging backpack, which contained 2 packets of the half-finished raw force potions I had prepared yesterday. Strictly speaking, they weren't even half-finished. Genuine potion making requires precision labs and refining equipment, but all I had were a few withered herbs scavenged from corpses and a battered pot. Yet, relying on the half-baked knowledge taught by my family pharmacist who was exiled to the mine 2 years ago, I managed to brew a crude powder that could assist in sensing primal force. Master Ma taught me for 2 months before he was assassinated. Internal faction struggles within the consortium, he had backed the wrong side. He was hunted all the way to this mine, and on a starless night his throat was slit. I buried him, kowtowed twice, and considered the matter settled. Once inside the cave, we didn't dig deep like the other mine slaves. Lien Ruafei and I turned into a side tunnel. The miner's lamp above our heads flickered dimly, like the dying eyes of a rat. The air was thick with the stench of filth and dust. Lien Ruafei used his entrenching tool to uncover a hidden crevice where dozens of pieces of secret tungsten or with silver specks were stashed. This was what we had secretly saved up over the past few days to hand over and buy our survival. With the remaining, or we can only fool them 3 or 4 more times. We need to speed up our plan. I crouched down to inspect the ore, my fingers touching the cold surface, my mind racing as I calculated escape routes. The mine was surrounded by wilderness. 60 kilometers to the south was a hunter guild supply station. If we could make it there, We had a chance to shed our slave identity. But the prerequisite was that we had enough stamina, food, and the ability to fend off wild beasts. So Lien Roafe and I desperately tried to sense the source force, even if we could cultivate just a shred of it. Our physical condition would improve dramatically, and our chances of escaping would multiply several times over. We sat facing each other, poured the medicinal powder into our mouths, and swallowed it with cold water. Lien Ruafe opened the yellowed book, Thousand June Law, the most widespread basic source force cultivation method in the empire. The royal family and corporations used it to screen young people with cultivation potential. I closed my eyes and, following the technique, guided the medicinal energy through my body, trying to capture the elusive source force particles in the air. Half an hour later, I opened my eyes. My dantian was empty. I didn't sense a damn thing. Even Lien Ruafe opened his eyes and shook his head at me. We exchanged a glance and cursed at the same time. Then we laughed. 2 years, and every single training session ended the same way. We were used to it by now. Has your headache been acting up lately? Lien Ruafe asked me. Almost any day now. I rubbed my temples in frustration. This damn headache had been with me as long as I could remember. When it hit, it felt like someone was drilling an electric drill into my skull, enough to knock me out from the pain. I had concocted several herbal painkillers for myself, but none of them worked. Sometimes I really felt like I might die in one of those headache episodes. My corpse would be dumped deep into the mine pits, keeping company with the nameless white bones. Let's go. Get out first, don't draw attention. I packed the ore into the basket, and we walked back along the mine tunnel. The various groups of mining slaves in the tunnel weren't at peace. Secret tungsten ore was getting harder to find, and killing over a single rock was a daily occurrence. As we rounded an intersection, footsteps suddenly echoed from the mine tunnel that had been quiet for a while. 2 shadows slanted across the stone wall. I stopped and exchanged a glance with Lien Ruafe. A young, dark-skinned miner emerged from the corner. When he saw me, he immediately put on a grin. Little master, what a coincidence. Heading back too, huh? This guy's surname was Sunday. Last month, his gang had a bloody clash with the Python crew. Several of his men died, and now only he and a skinny, middle-aged man were left. I noticed his basket was full to the brim, but on the surface, it was all ordinary black rocks. There were only 4 or 5 pieces of secret tungsten, or with faint silver specks at the bottom, not enough to meet the quota. These two were definitely planning to target someone today. Brother son, you're really lucky to have gathered enough so quickly. I squinted with a smile, then pointed to another mine tunnel behind me. Looks like there are still a few in there. We'll check out first. With that, I grabbed Lien Ruafe and dashed in that direction. The moment we disappeared around the corner, I heard the low voices of Sun and the middle-aged man behind us. They've got plenty in their basket. That kid next to Dushio, a whole basket of secret tungsten ore, but if we mess with Dushio, there'll be no one to treat our headaches and fevers later. Are you tired of living? If we don't hand in enough, or we'll all die. Forget the future robbed them. 2 sets of footsteps quickly chased after us. Lien Ruafe and I hid behind the corner. I gripped the sharpened steel spike, and he raised his entrenching shovel. The moment the young man, surnamed Sun, burst around the corner, my steel spike plunged into his throat without hesitation. Shock and fear hadn't fully surfaced in his eyes before blood sprayed all over my hand. Lien Ruafe's shovel followed, striking the middle-aged man on the head. He staggered, trying to grab the spike to fight back. I kicked the still twitching young Sun aside, turned, and drove the spike into the middle-aged man's heart. The whole process took less than 10 seconds, clean and swift. The middle-aged man slowly fell. Before dying, his eyes locked on mine, his lips moving, as if asking how a small-time pharmacist who always smiled at everyone could strike so ruthlessly. I pulled the spike out. Wiping the blood on the corpse, he calmly picked out a dozen odd pieces of secret tungsten ore from their baskets. I felt no guilt for killing. From being chosen like livestock in the orphanage, to wandering the streets and having a beggar snatch the last bit of food from me, to watching people fall like stalks of wheat in the mines, every day this world never taught me to respect life, so I didn't need to teach anyone else. In the evening, I emerged from the mine. The sky was heavy, the clouds pressing low, and the cold wind had died. The world was eerily still, as if frozen solid. At the mouth of the mine, The guards were counting the ore each slave worker had turned in. I tossed a few pieces into the basket for show. The guard saw it was me and sighed helplessly. "Little sir, why have you gone down the mine again? Captain Ma was just looking for you. You'd better go quickly." Captain Ma was the head guard of the mining camp. He was built like a barrel, always wearing a cloak emblazoned with a Ma Corporation logo, a cup of hot tea perpetually in hand. He treated me with a measure of respect. The reason was simple. There were many medicinal herbs in the wilderness. He often took people out to gather them, and then asked me to identify which ones were valuable. I was his human herb identification machine. With this skill, I earned some so-called privileges. But these privileges could disappear at any time. I knew that, and Captain Ma knew it too. I walked into Captain Ma's room. On the wall hung the god-slaying painting that could be found everywhere in the Empire. In the picture, the handsome creator god sat on his throne in the palace. Behind him, his most loyal human steward took him by surprise, stabbing a dagger through his back. Beside them, a wolf clan guard extended his claws, and the insectoid queen raised her head in terror. This painting depicted the story of the day of bestowment. Humans backstabbed the god, stealing wisdom and greed, and established the empire. The wolf clan seized strength and savagery, and established the tribes. Meanwhile, those who inherited the god's bloodline, the bestowed, called themselves the new gods and founded the Holy See in the Western continent. For 10,000 years, the empire, the tribes, and the Holy See have been locked in endless war. The Ninth Empire, like an old train, rumbled forward on the tracks of war, not knowing when it would completely fall apart. The relationship between the empire and the tribes has been relatively peaceful for nearly 10,000 years. Both located in the eastern continent, there have been minor skirmishes along the border. But overall, it has remained fairly stable. In their struggle against the papal court, the two often joined forces to resist the invasion of the papal legions. With the middle of the eastern continent as the dividing line, the empire lies in the northern part of the continent, while the tribes inhabit the southern part. November 24th, known as Emancipation Day for the people of the eastern continent. Today is a day worth celebrating. 10,000 years ago on this day, humanity gained true freedom, no longer enslaved by the gods. It is the most festive and celebratory holiday of the year. For freedom, for rebirth. The Empire's secret tungsten mine is no exception. Even the freezing snow cannot dampen the guards' festive spirits. Of course, before that, they need to clear some eyesores out of sight, herding those damn mining slaves into the tunnels. You get the day off today. No need to search for ore. But you can only enjoy your holiday in the mine. Hurry up, you annoying lot. Take your food and get into the mine. You're not allowed to come out all day today. You can come out tomorrow morning. If anyone comes out without permission and ruins our fun, he'll be dead for sure. I said so. The guards brandished their clubs, driving the mine slaves, Captain Ma's squad. "Young master," a guard asked, "the same as the other mine slaves?" "Drive them all into the mine," Captain Ma said softly. "The secret tungsten mine won't last much longer. Dushio will soon lose his usefulness too. Naturally, he no longer needs to maintain a friendship with a slave." Dushio followed the crowd and was driven into the mine. Brother Du, inside the mine, a young man with 6 or 7 people, caught up to Dushio. The newcomer was called Big Python, one of Dushio's good friends. Their acquaintance was simple. Big Python fought with someone, or looted, wounded and near death. Dushio proactively extended a helping hand, helped him gather the ore, and healed his injuries. The reason Dushio chose to help the Big Python was simple. He was a bit reckless and tough. He clearly distinguished love from hate, making it convenient for Dushio to leverage the favor for repayment. Yes, it was that pragmatic. It had nothing to do with kindness. He had a plan, and the Big Python had some uses. That's all. This is not a place to talk. Let's go. Dushio nodded. A group of people followed behind him, walking toward a remote mining tunnel. The mining slaves of other groups only glanced sideways briefly, and then paid no further attention. In their view, as the secret tungsten ore became harder and harder to find, someone as frail as Dushio, joining the Big Python gang, was also within expectations. Thinking of this, the groups all averted their eyes, led their teams deeper into the mine pit. Although today they didn't need to look for ore, but gather tomorrow's supplies in advance. It's always good to be prepared. Besides, who knows what the guards in the mine might do after drinking too much, throwing drunken tantrums, and using the mining slaves for their entertainment. Last year, on that birthday occasion, some guards got a whim to go down the mine and drag up a few slaves to play target practice for their amusement. With this precedent, this year the mining slaves all unanimously hid deep in the mine shafts. Grayish-black broken clouds piled up for thousands of miles, giving a sense of an impending storm. The dark clouds pressed down the sky's dome. On the open ground, several fire-starting stones were placed under the firewood. These stones, when touched by a spark, burst into scorching flames, making them the best for kindling and starting fires. Pop! The flame from the lighter ignited the fire-starting stone. In an instant, the woodpile crackled and snapped, sending up clusters of flames. Over a dozen bonfires were lit one after another. The entire mining camp was enveloped in heat waves. Everyone's faces glowed red. On the tables brought out, sliced fresh fruits were laid out. Desserts, fine wine, and chefs set up grills. The aroma of grilled meat spread in all directions. The supplies brought in yesterday had made this carnival possible. The guards, according to rank, personal ties, hometowns, personalities, and other factors, gathered in small groups. Forming small circles, they chatted about trivial life matters. No one worried about the mine slaves escaping. These ordinary people, without any special powers, were no match for them no matter what. As long as at least one person wasn't too drunk, pulling the trigger and sweeping casually could kill a large number. Of course, no one thought that any mine slave would dare to come out. Right now, those rats were probably exploring deeper into the mine tunnels, striving for the secret tungsten or to be turned in tomorrow. The revelry continued unabated. The perspective shifted to the entire empire. The Ninth Empire, dozens of regions, countless fortress cities, all were hosting various grand celebrations. Countless imperial citizens donned new clothes, flooding the streets, children clutching balloons, running wild, students in small groups, making plans to go out, couples embracing on the riverbank at sunset, dreaming of an unseen future. At the aristocrats' balls and parties, vying in splendor, living in drunken stupor. From dawn till night, countless young and beautiful women, attempting to marry into wealthy families, swaying their hips energetically at the parties, exuding the aura of youth, trying to catch the attention and please the big shots. They didn't mind offering a wonderful night in return. At the ball, men in suits and ties, handsome and tall pretty boys. His gaze fell on a corner, a young woman adorned with jewelry. He racked his brain thinking how to display his gentlemanly demeanor, then start by complimenting her attire. The man raised his glass and walked toward her. He could tell that she was also interested. Every fortress city was immersed in an ocean of revelry. The city and the wilderness were distinctly separate. The latter had only the howling wind. In the afternoon, Captain Ma looked up. A hexagonal snowflake the size of a fingernail fell from the sky and landed on the bridge of his nose. The snowflake, at a visible speed, was melted by his hot, wine-scented breath, quickly dissolved. A trace of coolness from the bridge of his nose slid down to his philtrum, then turned into warmth. Captain Ma touched his nose, raised his hand to look. It was blood. The warmth inside his nasal cavity could not stop flowing down, immediately followed by an indescribable feeling of weakness, sweeping through his entire body. The strength within his body seemed to be drained away. The weakness was far greater than after lovemaking, 1,000 times heavier. His legs were trembling. With a thud, Captain Ma fell to his knees. His eyelids felt as heavy as a boulder pressing down. He used all his strength to open his eyes, struggled to stand up, looking around. The crowd that was drinking and reveling just minutes ago now all lay on the ground convulsing. The originally noisy mining site had instantly fallen silent. Only the crackling of burning would remain. 1 minute later, as his consciousness faded for the last time, he saw a pair of dirty snow boots. Captain Ma lifted his head with difficulty. A young man, at the entrance of the mine, was looking at him with a faint, ambiguous smile. It's poison, Captain Ma suddenly realized. He looked up slightly, gazing at the young man. The smile he had previously understood as obedience and respect now in this moment, seemed utterly terrifying. Originally, he had only thought that Du Xiu was a lucky one who had inherited Master Ma's legacy. Now, it was clear that Du Xiu's talent as an apothecary was far more terrifying than he had imagined. Apothecaries are geniuses, 1 in 10,000. But even these geniuses require 10 years or more just to learn the basic knowledge of tens of thousands of herbs. To actually concoct potions without guidance is utterly impossible. Yet Du Xiu had only studied under Master Ma for a year. His basic theory of herbs could only be roughly explained, let alone potion formulas, because the so-called Master Ma was only the lowest level apothecary. In contrast, Du Xiu had not only learned herbal knowledge, but had even taught himself, in such a crude environment, had concocted a potion, although toxic potions were looked down upon by alchemists. In such a short time, concocting a colorless, odorless, and highly poisonous potion unanimously proved Du Xiu's terrifying talent as an alchemist. In an instant, Captain Ma recalled many things. Spare me my life. Captain Ma's mouth twitched, his voice weak and utterly submissive. Splat. Du Xiu pulled the iron rod from Captain Ma's neck. Blood soaked the thin layer of snow on the ground. Lien Ruofei, Demang, and the others also gradually ceased their attacks. The original defenses of the secret tungsten mine, once as impenetrable as iron walls, but with the depletion of the ore, the Ma Consortium had withdrawn all its personnel, leaving only Captain Ma and about 20 or 30 guards to protect it. Dealing with them was not troublesome. Du Xiu exhaled a puff of white breath. He had been waiting for this day for a long time. Last year on his birthday, when he saw the mine guards completely drunk, Du Xiu conceived this plan in his mind. Over the course of a year, he prepared poisons and devised a plan, selected the people to assist him. Everything was aimed at this day. What Du Xiu didn't know was that without this plan, what awaited him was a mass slaughter. After the secret tungsten ore was fully mined, fate plays tricks on people. Du Xiu reached out his hand, ice crystals and snowflakes fell onto his palm, then melted. He packed up the supplies, preparing to leave this place. A large, sturdy python picked up a gun from the guard's corpse, ran over carrying it, and said, "Brother Du, aren't we going to rest for another night? Traveling in a blizzard. That's not a good choice." Du Xiu shook his head. This blizzard could last who knows how long, before the heavy snow blocks the road. We need to leave here quickly. Good. Big Python was a genuine slave by birth. He possessed the unique spiritual qualities of slave, obedience and loyalty to the strong. Take more burning stones. Good. About an hour later, the group of 9 people had cleared out all the main living supplies in the mine. Driving 3 vehicles, they left the secret tungsten mine against the wind and snow. As for the remaining mine slaves in the cave, they would come out the next day and find a surprise transformed from shock. But could they get out? Not long after the vehicles left, several muffled sounds came from the mine. Then a large cloud of dust spread over the mine. The explosion caused the cave collapse, burying all the secrets. The setting sun fell, and the night arrived. The snow grew heavier and heavier. Snowflakes the size of a baby's fist rushed wildly in the air like out-of-control race cars. A wilderness overgrown with weeds and brambles, covered by a layer of snow 30 to 40 centimeters deep. Looking into the distance, the dim sky is bleached white by the heavy snowfall, the crystalline earth, and the wind sharp as a blade, together crafting a winter world unique to the wild. Let's rest here. Du Xiu, sitting in the passenger seat, glanced at the dense forest ahead. The thick clusters of trees slowed the onslaught of the storm. They had left the secret tungsten mine 7 or 8 hours ago. Though they could take turns driving, sitting for long hours still took a heavy toll on their bodies. On top of that, the snowstorm was growing stronger. No matter how fast the wipers moved, they couldn't keep up with clearing the snow from the windshield. Stopping to rest now was the best choice. Following Du Xiu's order, Lien Ruofei slammed on the brakes, stalling the SUV in the snow. Tell Big Python, keep the engine running, take turns to rest. Okay, by the way, Xiu, where are we going? Lien Ruofei took out 2 cigarettes. After lighting them, he handed one to Du Xiu. Du Xiu took it and took a hard drag. A spicy sensation filled his chest. He hadn't smoked much before, But in the blizzard driving through the white, monotonous wilderness, smoking did help keep him alert, distract his mind, and drive away irritation. To Burt City. It's the nearest fortress city from here. Will Ma Consortium put a bounty on us? No. The guards are dead. The mine collapsed. No one survived in the secret tungsten mine. They won't find the killer. Besides, the secret tungsten ore was hauled away just yesterday. We didn't take too many valuables from them. They won't go to great lengths to investigate. It'll most likely be ruled as a raid by wasteland bandits. The Ninth Empire spanned vast territories, with countless fortress cities scattered across millions of miles. Scattered like stars on a chessboard between cities, lay endless wilderness. In the wilderness, all kinds of ferocious beasts, and countless insect swarms, lurking with dangers, yet accompanied by herbs, ores, and resources like corpses of beasts and insects. Ordinary people, weak and unable to cultivate, lived within fortress cities, becoming fuel for the Empire's operation, burning themselves out. Skilled origin cultivators, gunmasters, gene warriors, and others ventured into the wilderness to gather resources. Various hunter squads and hunter groups arose in response, becoming a hallmark of the era. Beyond these, there were also corrupt bandits and heretics aligned with the church. Various factions on the wilderness together built a chaotic stage. The conglomerate's control within cities was unquestionable, but in the wilderness, strength reigned supreme. Hordes of bandits and mutants often prey on consortium merchant caravans like fat sheep. It's only natural for mining camps to be plundered. A worthless mining camp. The consortium won't bother investigating thoroughly. But before we get close to Burt City, these vehicles need to be disposed of in advance. The vehicles they're driving all bear the Ma Consortium's emblem, a pair of white wings. Driving these few vehicles into the city, a simple interrogation would blow our cover. It would be like walking into a trap. Dushio got out of the car and unzipped his pants, pissing a stream into the snow, shivering once, then climbed back into the vehicle. No words were exchanged that night. Early the next morning, the blizzard eased. The group set off again. The night's heavy snow had buried all terrain features beneath the drifts. The map was of little use now. Dushio held a compass, guiding their advance based on a general direction. After traveling continuously for most of the day, a rumbling sound came from afar. A few cars appeared from the west. The vehicles also bore a pair of white wings. After spotting Dushio and the others, the vehicles moved closer to them. "Brother Du, what should we do? Should we avoid them?" A panicked voice came through the walkie-talkie from Demang. Not just him, even Lien Ruofei beside him looked tense, sweating profusely. "No, keep driving normally." Dushio stared at the heavy artillery mounted on the nearby vehicles and gritted out the order. On this kind of road, even if they floored it, they wouldn't get far. And if the consortium sensed something wrong, at this distance, under the concentrated artillery fire, survival would be impossible. Just then, an unfamiliar man's voice came over the walkie-talkie. "Avoid who? Which company under the group are you from?" Everyone's hearts leaped into their throats. They didn't know the Ma Consortium's walkie-talkie channel. They were all on the same channel. Within a certain area, it automatically connects not just the Ma Consortium, but almost all consortiums. And large hunter groups are set up this way. This makes it convenient for members within the group to communicate and call for help at any time on the wasteland. Our previous conversation has already been heard by them. The other party probably has some suspicions now. "Which company are you from?" Dushio's cold voice came through the walkie-talkie. Not convenient to disclose. After a brief silence, the other party replied, "Sorry, our matters, given your level, you have no authority to inquire." Dushio looked at the white wings on the other's car door and said calmly. Master Ma had briefed him on the Ma Consortium structure. Linta Golden Wing Ma refers to the emblem of the Ma Consortium. The highest rank is Golden Wing. When core members of the family's direct line travel, they display a golden double wing emblem. Below is Silver Wing. Green wings and white wings represent the upper echelons of the Ma Consortium, the top management of branches and regular cadres in various subsidiaries. The emblem on the other party's car door was the same as the one on his vehicle. Both were white wings, signifying they belonged to the Ma Consortium, one of its many subsidiaries, on equal footing so no need to be overly wary of them. There was another silence over the walkie-talkie. After a long pause, a voice came through. What is the destination of your trip? Burt City. Are you headed there too? You're taking this route to get to Burt City? The other party asked, a hint of confusion in their tone. Du Xiao was startled. Was this direction not leading to Burt City? He only knew a general vicinity of Burt City. Before he could come up with a way to cover his slip, the walkie-talkie crackled again. Huh, what a coincidence. We're heading to Burt City too. Your convoy can follow behind us. Du Xiao frowned, deep in thought. If he refused, would they use force to stop them? After much hesitation, Du Xiao forced himself to stay calm and agreed. Okay. Seeing Du Xiao release the intercom, a hint of anxiety appeared on Lien Ruofei's face. Show her, we'll go with them. Won't that easily expose us? We have to follow. If we don't follow now, the other side will sense something is wrong, and they'll definitely take action. With our speed, we can't escape their fire-covered zone at all. In the wilderness, impersonating the conglomerates, and large hunter group convoys is common. They're certainly alert to that. They can't take that risk. In a moment, you go down and explain clearly to Big Mang and the others. Tell them not to panic, not to speak. Everything follows my lead. Du Xiao instructed. All right, Du Xiao stopped the car, pretending to wait for those vehicles. Lien Ruofei got out from the passenger seat and gave instructions to Big Mang and the others. Soon, those vehicles rendezvoused with Du Xiao. The passenger window of the lead car rolled down. A burly man with a full beard stuck his head out. Du Xiao also lowered his window, a look of wariness on his face. The other man glanced at the standard security uniform of the Ma Consortium on Du Xiao, tossed out a line, follow me closely, and prepared to roll up the window. To continue driving. Wait, how can you prove you're from the Consortium? Du Xiao asked back, his face full of distrust. At the same time, he took his right hand off the steering wheel and reached down, pretending to go for his gun. The bearded man's window, which had been rolled up, lowered again. He shot Du Xiao an annoyed look, then pulled out an ID card from his pocket. It had his photo on it, and the ID bore the emblem of the Ma Consortium. Dingshan Company Transport Captain, Zhou Yuan. Here, open your eyes wide. Take a good look and see if I'm from the Consortium or not. Zhou Yuan grumbled. This little brat is quite alert. Du Xiao nodded, looking displeased, and was the first to ascend the glass. He ignored Zhou Yuan upon seeing this. Zhou Yuan was fuming with rage. Hey, this little bastard really needs a good lesson. However angry he was, he didn't check Du Xiao's credentials. The other's expression, full of defiance and resentment, was like a fresh-faced kid who just joined the Consortium, with an air of being protected by the Consortium, acting all high and mighty, like, what can you do to me? Night fell, and the 8 cars split into 2 small groups. Stopping at a sheltered hillside, a few of them cleared the snow, freed up a space, driving the tent pegs into the ground at the 4 corners, set up the tent with insulation material in its layers, and secured it tightly with windproof ropes. On the ground inside the tent, they laid a cold, insulating panel, then covered it with several layers of snow rabbit fur. Following the same procedure, in no time at all, 7 or 8 tents were set up one after another, successfully making camp. Du Xiao and Lien Ruofei, one with an axe tucked at his waist, the other carrying a firearm on his back. They brought over some arm-thick tree trunks from a distance. Beneath the damp, snow-covered logs, they placed fire starting stones. The moment sparks hit the stones, a cluster of flames leaped up, scorching the dozens of dark logs above. Instantly, thick smoke billowed. At the same time, it also drove away the moisture within the logs. The rising smoke grew denser and denser. After a few minutes, it turned into flames. Suddenly, the fire blazed brightly. Chasing away the gloom, it cast a red glow on the faces of those around. 2 groups sat clearly separated around 2 campfires, warming themselves. Soon after, Zhou Yuan walked over. Approaching Du Xiao. Du Xiao looked up, his opponent's burly figure, and behind it, the 3M-134 rapid-fire machine guns mounted on the vehicle, along with a 107mm cannon, put immense pressure on him. Currently, these weapons of mass destruction were all manned, their gazes wandering over Du Xiao and the others. Apart from Du Xiao and Lien Ruofei, the mining slaves Zhou Yuan looked at all lower their heads, not daring to meet his gaze. Zhou Yuan confirmed that among this group, there were no real experts. Kid, what are you folks doing in the uninhabited zone? Transporting supplies. After a moment of silence, Du Xiu said quietly, with just this rabble of yours? Zhou Yuan sneered. Faced with Zhou Yuan's mockery, Du Xiu was not provoked. He flipped the grilled meat in his hand, lifted his eyelids, and said, of course not. The captain took a few men to chase after a ferocious beast. What kind of beast? A level 2 snow wolf. Zhou Yuan's eyes flickered. No wonder this brat was so emboldened. A cultivator capable of pursuing a second-tier snow wolf is at least at the aperture opening realm. The path of cultivation from low to high is Qi and Blood realm, aperture opening realm, meridian unlocking realm, and the division and detailed information of realms above the meridian unlocking realm are all controlled by major powers such as the conglomerates. Ordinary people can hardly access them. Zhou Yuan himself is only at the Qi and Blood realm. Not just him, most hunters in the wilderness are at the Qi and Blood realm. The aperture opening realm is already the ceiling. But is what this kid's saying true? Zhou Yuan looked Du Xiu up and down. The latter's Ma family's standard guard uniform was very ill-fitting. The sleeves and shoes were too large. Not just him, the people around bowed their heads and hunched their backs, not daring to breathe heavily. They didn't look like a conglomerate at all. They looked exactly like slaves. With such personnel quality, would there be an aperture opening realm expert following them? What would an aperture opening realm expert be thinking to? Led this bunch of useless people, although full of loopholes, still made Zhou Yuan wary. What if he didn't dare to gamble? It was generally acknowledged that between origin practitioners and heavy firearms, origin practitioners were weak early on but strong later. Although with the heavy firepower in his hands, he was not afraid of an acupoint opening origin practitioner. This was only on paper. The most notable traits of origin practitioners were their individual combat capability and sustainability. If a powerful acupoint opening cultivator kept trailing his convoy, that would be extremely troublesome. Furthermore, he worried that this acupoint opening expert was a gunsmith. In the wilderness, the consortium's people relied on powerful firearms to plunder wilderness resources and occupy resource outposts, arousing discontent among many hunters. Where there is oppression, there is resistance. Over the years, gunsmiths emerged as the times required. The origin force firearms crafted by weapon masters. This type of force-driven firearm grants more terrifying power than ordinary firearms, and longer range, making it the favorite of hunters. The corporations, due to the emergence of gunsmiths, became more restrained in their actions on the wasteland. Seeing Zhou Yuan's hesitation, Du Xiu breathed a slight sigh of relief. He had originally thought that as long as he could prove he was from the corporation, he could get away with it and temporarily ensure his life was safe. But soon, Du Xiu discovered a new problem. Zhou Yuan and his group were off. They most likely were not from the corporation. Or rather, even if they were from the corporation, they were full of lies and might very well make a move against him. Previously, when identifying herbs for Captain Ma, the people delivering daily supplies often mentioned that 200 kilometers from the secret tungsten mine, there is a small town where hunters rested and resupplied. What was the price of herbs there? Previously, when identifying medicinal herbs for Captain Ma, the people delivering daily supplies often mentioned that 200 kilometers from the secret tungsten mine, there was a small town where hunters rest and replenish supplies. The price of medicinal herbs there was intending to drive down the price, to buy the herbs from Captain Ma at a low price. That small town was the only way from Burt City to the secret tungsten mine. Now, they had traveled nearly 300 kilometers, but there was no sign of the small town. This meant they were heading not to Burt City at all. Recalling the other party's surprised reaction when they mentioned Burt City during the day, the other party must have realized they were lost too. But he didn't warn them. Instead, he told him to follow him. At first, Du Xiu didn't understand what the other party was up to. It wasn't until Zhou Yuan said the words minor minions that Du Xiu suddenly understood. Zhou Yuan had been playing nice with him, not out of camaraderie as colleagues in the consortium, but to learn his background before making a move. The so-called level 2 snow wolf was naturally fabricated. Du Xiu had to invent a strong figure. To protect himself, he bet the other party wouldn't dare take the risk. As it turned out, he was right. After the other party heard that the captain was pursuing a level 2 snow wolf, they stopped being aggressive. Watching Zhou Yuan turn and leave, the hearts of the crowd hung in suspense. Finally relaxed, beside the large python, a man with downturned triangular eyes surreptitiously nudged the person next to him. The two exchanged a glance, both showing hesitation in their eyes. The campfire flickered as night grew late. In pairs, everyone returned to their tents. The man with the triangular eyes lowered his voice and said to the young man, "Don't sleep too soundly tonight. Wait until midnight, then we leave this place." "Bro, are you sure? In this heavy snow, how far can we really run? It's better to stick with young master. We can look out for each other." "Look out my ass. Even though I don't know how far Bird City is from here. We've been walking for almost 2 days now. I reckon we'll get there soon. We never ran into that bearded man before. We could have destroyed the vehicle and entered the city earlier. Now we can only enter the city under the guise of the consortium. But entering the city as members of the consortium, isn't that just asking for death?" The slanted triangular-eyed man snorted coldly and said, "Didn't Brother Python say, the young master has a way to get us out of here alive? He told us to keep quiet and do nothing. Are you really stupid or just pretending? Du Xiu is an apothecary. Even if he's exposed in the city, with their profit-first work style, they won't kill him. But what about us? We're genuine slaves. Do you think we'll get any good treatment once we're in the city?" The slanted triangular-eyed man glared at the young man, looking frustrated at his failure to live up to expectations. "Well, that's true. Brother, what should we do now? When it hits midnight, I'll grab the fire-starting stones, and you grab the dried meat. No need to take water, there's snow. We won't die of thirst. Let's sneak out of here. There was a grove of trees not far away. We'll escape through there," the man with the downturned eyes advised. All right. The moonlight was hazy. Careless rays of moonlight scattered across the snow-covered wilderness. The crystalline snow glistened with a cold sheen. The land was still, in a bonfire circled by stones. The flames had died, leaving embers glowing faintly in the gloom, reflecting a dim red light. From a half-burnt log, a crackling sound emerged. Sparks flew out, landing on the snow. Then with a fizz, they melted shallow pits in the snow. At that moment, 2 figures carrying rifles emerged from tent. A crunch came from under the young man's feet as he stepped on snow. The man with the triangular eyes. The man cast an expressionless glance at him, then pointed at his feet, signaling the young man to tread lightly on untouched snow. The young man quickly nodded. The two crept quietly to the vicinity of the vehicle. They were packing up their belongings when, just as they were about to leave, a voice rang out from behind them. "And where might you two be headed?" The inverted triangle-shaped man turned to look back. A burly man with a bushy beard, like a black bear, stood in the snow, the dark muzzle of a gun aimed at them. Captain Zhou, we're just looking around. Carrying so many supplies just to look around?" Zhou Yuan pouted his lips, indicating the mountaineering backpack on his back. The inverted triangle-shaped man smiled awkwardly, without saying a word. "If you can't give me a reason, I won't let the two of you off easily." Zhou Yuan let out a cold laugh. Hearing this, the inverted triangle-eyed man's face was uncertain, and he never mustered the courage to raise the gun in his hand. Once he fired a shot, it would definitely wake the others, and then they would have absolutely no chance to escape. Moreover, neither of them had ever handled a gun before. Their marksmanship was poor. They were only at the Qi blood stage of cultivation. Although it's not yet completely bulletproof, the enhancement in physical fitness and neural reflexes means they're just amateur shooters who pose no threat. Provoking Zhou Yuan further would only make things worse. "Captain Zhou, let me tell you a secret, but you have to promise to let us leave," the inverted triangle man said through gritted teeth. "Zhou Yuan is one of the consortium's people. Capturing Du Xiu and these escaped slave fugitives counts as a merit, no matter how you look at it. Go on. If it's valuable, maybe I'll let you leave." Zhou Yuan raised an eyebrow. "Actually, we're from the mine." Just as the inverted triangle eyes were about to speak, 2 people suddenly burst out of tent, their submachine guns spitting 2 streams of hot fire, aimed at the inverted triangle man. The instant he heard the gunfire, Zhou Yuan reacted extremely quickly, dropping flat into the snow, then rolling away, hiding his body in a relatively low-lying depression. Across from Zhou Yuan, the man with the inverted triangle eyes and the young man beside him were instantly riddled with bullets. The bullets even ignited the flint stones in their backpacks. Suddenly, two blazing figures lay dead in the snow. Those who had struck without mercy were none other than Du Xiu and Lien Ruofei. Seeing the two dead men, Zhou Yuan's face darkened with anger. The sudden gunfire startled him. Moreover, whether it was an illusion or not, he felt that several bullets had been aimed at him. Were those two trying to kill the escapees? Or were they trying to kill him too? Hearing the shots, those who had been resting were all awakened and quickly grabbed their weapons, stepping out of their tents to check the situation. Demang and the others automatically gathered around Du Xiu, holding the guns they had acquired from the mine. But anyone with discerning eyes could tell from their posture and demeanor, from their body language, read the word guilty on his face. In contrast, Zhou Yuan's men were much more professional. They briefly surveyed the scene, and following the team's division of labor, each carrying heavy weapons, found cover and spread out, aiming their guns at Du Xiu and his group. Zhou Yuan got up from the snow, looked back, and saw his men had set up firing positions. He immediately stormed over to Du Xiu, raised his hand, and gave him a slap. "I caused Du Xiu's fuss. You little bastard. What do you think you're doing? We're dealing with deserters. None of your business." Du Xiu flushed with anger. Furious, Zhou Yuan said, "That man just now said he would tell me a secret, and before he could speak, you killed him. What shady business do you have between you? When our captain gets here, you can ask him." Zhou Yuan grabbed Du Xiu by the collar, his eyes gleaming coldly as he said, "Kid, don't try to scare me with your captain. Don't push your luck. I'll kill you right now. By the time that happens, whether your team leader can even find me is still up in the air." Du Xiu was silent for a moment. A trace of fear flashed in his eyes. With a humiliated expression, he said, "We're actually from the mine transport team." "Mine transport team? Why would a transport team need to be so secretive? Transporting military-controlled, or..." The few words that came out of Du Xiu's mouth instantly stunned Zhou Yuan. Then his scalp prickled. Getting involved with military-controlled items means a whole heap of trouble. The conglomerate certainly has a stranglehold locally, but that doesn't mean they can recklessly trade military-controlled items. These are times of war. All ideologies must align with the war effort. Anything involving military-controlled items is absolutely a core secret of the empire and the conglomerate. If you touch it, you're in trouble. Du Xiu turned to Lien Ruofei and said, "Go to the car and bring down the ore. Let Captain Zhou check it out." Lien Ruofei turned and went. "Forget it. Just pretend I don't know about this." Zhou Yuan felt it was unlucky. He waved his hand repeatedly, joking. Military-controlled items. This thing is a hot potato. Getting involved brings absolutely no benefit. No wonder with the quality of these people. They actually have someone at the opening aperture realm leading them. So it was escorting military-controlled ores. Moreover, these people are probably the abandoned pawns of the consortium, the kind that need to be disposed of after the transport. As the two were silent, suddenly a sound came. "Ah, dong dong dong," sound. The sound came from Zhou Yuan's convoy. The other vehicles were all off-road vehicles. The only vehicle making a sound. There is an enclosed carriage at the back. There is someone in the carriage. An unusual sound came from it during the standoff. Everyone present couldn't help shifting their gaze to the carriage. In an instant, the atmosphere tensed up again. In that case, can Captain Zhou let go now? Du Xiu withdrew his gaze from the carriage. He snorted coldly and said, "Little brother, it's a misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding. Also, I just discovered tonight that we're off course. This road isn't the one to Burt City, but it's too late to turn back now. We don't have enough supplies or fuel. There's a hunter town up ahead. We should arrive by tomorrow afternoon. At that time, we can each rest and regroup. After that, we go our separate ways. How about it?" Zhou Yuan loosened his grip. He said with a forced smile. "Fine." Du Xiu uttered a single word. Zhou Yuan waved his hand back. His men put away their guns. As Zhou Yuan turned and left, the tense atmosphere in the camp eased. Back inside the tent, the anger on Du Xiu's face faded into calm, as if the young man who had been humiliated outside was not him. Lien Ruofei glanced at Du Xiao. Heaving a sigh inwardly, Du Xiao's face always seemed to wear a mask. This mask would shift according to the scene, taking on different emotions: warmth, enthusiasm, reluctance, anger, indifference. Whenever needed, any emotion could be switched at will. You're really bold, not afraid of being exposed. Lien Ruofei lit 2 cigarettes and handed one to Du Xiao. Du Xiao rubbed his face and took the cigarette. Mystic tungsten, or is only a quasi-military control mineral. Although just the word quasi was added, its control intensity has dropped more than a notch. You can tell from the guards at the Mystic Tungsten mine. Captain Ma is just an ordinary person. It happened suddenly, and we had no choice. Du Xiao flicked the ash outside the tent. Suddenly, something occurred to him, and he was stunned for a moment. 2 hours later, once they're all sound asleep, we'll sneak away from here. Why are you leaving so suddenly? The importance of items under military control is beyond doubt. It is precisely because it is so important. Our captain has yet to show up. That became the problem, Du Xiao said quickly. Second-level ferocious beasts are indeed very valuable. But no matter how valuable, it can't compare to military-controlled supplies. Hunting monsters for extra cash. It's only human nature, but to hunt the beast. Haven't shown up for 2 days straight. To place such an important item, hand over to one's own group. Escorting ordinary people without even heavy weapons. This situation is just too absurd. Now the other party is temporarily intimidated by the military-controlled items. But after daybreak, when they came to their senses, he will definitely come looking for trouble again. Du Xiao is not the kind of person to sit idly by. Given the current situation, either launch a surprise attack on Zhou Yuan's team and wipe them out in one fell swoop to eliminate the threat once and for all, or take advantage of the night. Sneaking away quietly is definitely not an option. This team, which roams the wilderness all year round, definitely has people keeping watch at night. With this group of wilderness rookies, a reckless attack would be like throwing an egg against a rock. So they can only beat it while the going is good. Just make a run for it, all right? What about Big Python and the others? Don't inform them. Too many people and eyes around. Making a big commotion will easily lead to trouble. Just the 2 of us, Du Xiao said calmly. Although Big Python listened to him well, Du Xiao didn't know him anything. If he had the ability, Du Xiao wouldn't mind giving him a hand, but when he could barely save himself, he would never let sympathy overflow. Okay, Lien Ruofei nodded. The 2 of them had long been ready to flee at any moment. They always carried mountaineering backpacks with them, which were packed with plenty of daily supplies. There was no need to be like those 2 mine slaves from earlier, rummaging through the car for supplies. After Zhou Yuan finished arranging the night watchman, he didn't go back to the tent right away. Instead, he returned to the vehicle. Before long, another middle-aged man walked over. He raised his wrist and glanced at the time. Old Zhou, it's past 1 in the morning. Why aren't you sleeping? What are you brooding over here? Damn, I'm a bit worried. Did you hear what that kid just said? Yeah, I heard it. It's quite unexpected. Military-controlled items being handed over to a bunch of greenhorns for transport. Their team leader really has some nerve. Besides that, the person in the compartment woke up just now. The sound of them knocking on the compartment was heard by those people. Are you worried they might leak the news? Yeah, there's a chance they might mention it to someone. This trip of ours is a life or death business. We absolutely cannot let anyone find any clues. Probably not. After transporting those military-controlled items, they'll likely be taken care of internally. It's that likely that worries me, Zhou Yuan said uneasily. The middle-aged man, Wang Feng, pulled out a cigarette. Holding it in his right hand, filter tip down, he tapped it repeatedly against the palm of his left hand to settle the tobacco, making the draw stronger. That was indeed a problem. But killing this group was not an option. If there was an issue with military-controlled items, it would cause trouble. As far as he knew, high-level cultivators had all sorts of tracking abilities. Nothing they could handle. Forget it, we'll deal with it tomorrow. Once we reach Hunter's Town, we'll meet up with the traders. See if they have any good ideas. Those outsiders are no ordinary folks. Yeah, that's all we can do. Go to sleep now. Rest up. We'll meet them early tomorrow. A little over an hour later. He unzipped the tent, shouldered his hiking pack, Du Xiao and Lien Ruofei, and silently slipped away from the campsite. Before leaving, Du Xiao pinched his nose, put on gloves, and applied something to the tent's zippers, both inside the tent and at the entrance. Sprinkled some powder. The moonlight grew even colder, with snow up to 40 to 50 centimeters deep. Their calves were completely submerged. They trudged forward, sinking deep with each step, extremely strenuous. Ducio's target was the snowy forest not far away. Afraid of alarming others, they didn't dare to drive and traveled on foot. The blizzard had stopped, and the snow pits left by their footprints on the undulating, smooth snow layer were extremely conspicuous. If Zhou Yuan gave chase by car, they would sooner or later be caught in the snow, so they could only flee into the snowy forest, where at least vehicles couldn't enter. He unzipped the tent, shouldered his hiking pack. The two arrived at the edge of the forest. In winter, the trees were all withered, their branches and green leaves shed, now draped in white snow and hung with icicles. Let's flee separately. Ducio glanced at the footprints behind and said calmly, the other party will most likely come in pursuit. If we split up, we have a greater chance of surviving. Split up, all right. Lien Ruofei looked at the bright white moon in the sky, staring blankly. Tonight's moon is whiter than the moon of that night many years ago when they were beaten by a homeless man and thrown into the swamp. Even brighter. Don't be so damn sentimental. Hurry up and get out of here. Ducio, whose face was red from the cold, reached out and punched Lien Ruofei. The two had known each other since the orphanage and wandered the streets together, then were sold and eventually became mine slaves. It had been over 10 years now. The hardships they had suffered together along the way were countless. Between them, in a way, they're each other's only family in this world, bound not by blood but by fate. Sure, no matter which of us survives, we must see this world for the other. Master Ma said that when the cherry blossoms bloom on the third island chain, they can fill the entire sky when carried by the wind. If I die, go see it for me. See if those bug hives are really as big as a city. See if the holy mountain of the wolf tribe is as high as the sky. And see what the gods look like for me. Lien Ruofei spoke like a dying man's last words, his lips trembling as he said, I understand. Come on, I think we can both make it. Oh, do you remember that little girl in the red dress from the orphanage? Don't remember her at all? That pretty little girl in the red dress. This habit of yours, getting all sentimental, at critical moments really needs to change. Du Xiu tilted his head, looking at Lien Ruofei. That little girl you mentioned, I really don't remember. Fine, then forget it. All right, now get lost. Du Xiu finished. He strode toward the dense forest without a backward glance. Watching Du Xiu's retreating figure, Lien Ruofei, in the direction Du Xiu had fled, used the gun barrel to scrawl a few crooked words. Come get me, dumbass. After writing it, he escaped in another direction. In his mind, the other party wouldn't fall for such a childish provocation and would most likely rush after him. A few minutes later, Du Xiu stood before those words, looking speechless. Another damn self-aggrandizing stunt. Over the years, at every critical moment, Lien Ruofei loved pulling this drama. What? The enemy wouldn't split up to pursue? Childish. Du Xiu scorned Lien Ruofei's behavior in his heart, but still went to the direction he had fled, and similarly wrote a line. Come get me, dumbass. After finishing, he unzipped his pants and let out a stream in the snow. A little overheated, very yellow. Admiring his own handiwork, Du Xiu nodded in satisfaction, then vanished once again into the thick forest. At dawn, as the sky was just beginning to brighten, a large crowd had gathered near Du Xiu's tent. Zhou Yuan stepped out his own tent, his expression extremely grim. That morning, he had noticed Du Xiu's tent zipper was open and immediately sensed something was wrong. When he went to check, sure enough, the bird had flown. Have you figured out what happened? Zhou Yuan asked Wang Fong, then couldn't help coughing a few times. There was a strange smell in Du Xiu's tent. A bit pungent, yeah? It was all fake. That kid never told a single truth. What military-controlled items, my ass? It was just secret tungsten, or those people were slaves who escaped from a secret tungsten mine. Wang Fong said with a grim face. Damn it, I've been hunting geese all my life, and now the geese have pecked out my eyes. Can't let this slide. Getting tricked like that? No way. I have to kill those two brats. Zhou Yuan's face darkened like water. First, Being scared by a brat with no cultivation for 2 days made him lose face completely. Second, he was afraid that Dushio would leak their secret. What about these people? Kill them all. Wang Fong glanced over, including the big python. The 5 men, disarmed and kneeling in the snow, nodded. I'll deal with those 2 bastards. You lead the team and continue along the original route. To the trade. Got it. Inside the camp, gunfire rang out. The 5 ill-fated mine slaves were riddled with bullets. Zhou Yuan took 2 men and followed the footprints all the way to the snowy forest. The vehicle stopped at the edge of the snowy forest, looking at the endless, bare trees. Zhou Yuan led his men inside. Soon, they saw the footprint split, fleeing in 2 directions into the dense forest. They split up. The little brats aren't stupid. Too bad. It's useless, Captain Zhou. There are words on the ground, and over here too. 2 accompanying team members shouted. Zhou Yuan looked closely, taking in the 2 sets of words. He was instantly furious. Veti kachu. I'll have to pull out your teeth. One by one. When that time comes, let's see if you still talk tough. Out of the corner of his eye, Zhou Yuan noticed a yellow stain. He frowned and said to the 2, "You 2 go after that one." The 2 team members nodded. Bypassing the yellow stain, they headed in the direction Lien Ruofei fled. Meanwhile, Zhou Yuan went after Du Xiao. As he went deeper, Zhou Yuan's anger grew stronger, because there were traces of Du Xiao's genuine writing on the ground from time to time. Hey, you really dare to come over? Stop chasing. If you keep chasing, you'll randomly lose one of your parents. Good. Go find yourself a new pair of parents, then. Stop chasing. If you keep chasing, I'll confiscate your family register. I'll leave 1 heir for your family. Lines of provocative words made Zhou Yuan want to break every bone in Du Xiao's body. He had followed the footprints here. He couldn't avoid seeing them. Glaringly bright, large characters constantly tested the limits of his heart's endurance. This was the first time he felt the power of words. In the afternoon, Du Xiao, leaning against a tree trunk, kept gasping for breath. His legs were as heavy as if filled with lead. From around 2 or 3 in the morning until now, after more than 10 hours of trekking through the snow, he was utterly exhausted. The supplies in his backpack had long been discarded, most of them gone, leaving only a few fire-starting stones, dried meat, and poison powder. Even so, his body had reached its limit. Now what kept him going was merely his desire to survive. Hopefully the poison will work. Du Xiao muttered to himself. If he escaped, Zhou Yuan would definitely enter the tent to check the situation himself. That was his only chance to apply the poison. At other times, the other party was highly vigilant. There was simply no opportunity. Given Zhou Yuan's hatred for him, it was highly likely that Zhou Yuan would personally lead the pursuit. He just didn't know if the pursuer would be him or Lien Ruofei. He had been leaving provocative messages in the snow, also to anger the pursuer, to accelerate the penetration of the poison. If it wasn't Zhou Yuan, but an ordinary guard, Du Xiao was not afraid, regardless of whether the other party was poisoned or not. With his own speed, having already fled for half the night in advance. Even if he rested for an hour or 2, the other party would not be able to catch up. If Zhou Yuan came, he would probably be catching up soon. The other party's physical condition was beyond his own comparison. A Qi blood realm cultivator versus an ordinary person. They are people from completely different worlds. The poison he concocted could easily kill Captain Ma and his team, but that doesn't mean it would have an immediate effect on Zhou Yuan. Dragging his exhausted body, Du Xiao came to a hillside. The terrain here was relatively high, allowing him to overlook the situation behind. He plopped down on the snow, took some jerky from his backpack, tore off a small piece, and put it in his mouth to chew. The master who made the jerky had poor skills that tasted like chewing wax. After replenishing energy, Du Xiao grabbed a handful of snow, stuffed it into his mouth to hydrate. Then he began continuously massaging his legs to relieve the muscle soreness. After a short rest of 20 minutes, Du Xiao spotted a small black dot in the distance, moving quickly across the snow. His expression instantly turned exceptionally grim, judging by the speed of travel. It was indeed Zhou Yuan who was chasing him. The other party was about 30 minutes away from him. A fierce look flashed across Du Xiao's face. At the campsite where Du Xiao had stayed last night, several tents still stood in the snow. not collapsed by the howling wind. On the ground lay the bodies of the big python and the other 5, their blood drained, staining the white snow red. Beside the campsite, a massive convoy slowly came to a halt. On the vehicle doors, a silver fox head was printed. At the front of the convoy, on 3 heavy firepower vehicles, sat hunters wearing helmets and bulletproof vests. Above, 7 or 8 drones loaded with bombs circled in the air. In the middle were 2 RVs and several trucks. At the rear were a few modified pickup trucks with artillery mounted on their beds, wearing gloves and hats. The hunters were bundled up tightly, sitting at the control console, work boots stepping on the snow, squeaking with a slick-back hairdo. A middle-aged man with a cigarette dangling from his mouth gets out of the vehicle and glances around, waves his hand, and from several vehicles, 8 fully armed hunters jump down. After they get out of the vehicles, in pairs, each carrying a Maxim machine gun, they run to the surrounding high ground. The drones in the sky also roar and disperse. Each operator directs the drones to different directions, to scout and stand guard. After everything is arranged, the slick-back man respectfully comes to a motorhome, knocks on the window, the passenger window rolls down. A young man pokes his head out. The slick-back man says enthusiastically, "Brother Ding, tell Master Lung. The place he mentioned, we've found it." "Okay, Commander Wong," the young man replied politely. A moment later, the RV door opened. An elderly man stepped out of the car. He was about 60 years old, of medium height, with a darker complexion. His eye sockets were deeply sunken. He had a hawk nose and very faint eyebrows, almost non-existent, with heavy bags under his eyes. His gaze was indifferent, his expression solemn. Overall, he gave off an unusually fierce and intimidating aura, a sense of being aloof and difficult to get along with. After sweeping his gaze around, his eyes landed on the tent not far away. Behind him followed 2 young people, who wanted to come along but were stopped by the old man's look. The old man went alone, arriving at the tent to inspect around, finally stopping at the tent where Du Xiu was staying. Suddenly, his gaze focused on the powder in the gap of the tent zipper. He leaned in and sniffed it with his nose. A flicker of surprise passed through his eyes. Then, he turned back to look around. Seeing no one followed, he took out the satellite phone, dialed a number. "Talk to me. I've arrived. What's the situation, cult leader?" "As agreed, we've received the person. According to the one who delivered him, during the transport, 2 mind slaves escaped. Their people went after them, but never came back. The person on the other end had a mournful expression. It should have been a small matter. Just arrange a few people to look for them. But as luck would have it, when he shared the location in the group chat to summon nearby help, he ended up summoning his own cult leader. His cult leader had been dormant for years, hiding his identity, never speaking unless it was a major sect matter. Otherwise, he rarely said a word. He suddenly popped up out of nowhere, and it had to be when he ran into this situation. How old is the slave? 16. Named Du Xiu. When the age was mentioned, the person on the other end, after a moment of thought, he added, "Master, there's another piece of news. According to what they learned from the fellow slaves, one of the escapees is not ordinary, he is an apothecary. Of course, slaves have limited experience, so this might be exaggerated. But one thing is certain. The poison he concocted was colorless and odorless, killing dozens of mine guards. He was the one who led them out. The person on the other end of the phone, knowing their master was renowned for poison, quickly shared this newly heard information. Interesting." A smile appeared on Cold Master's stiff face. Though with his features, it was somewhat frightening, a matter done by chance. Yet it yielded an unexpected gain. "Good, I'll handle the slave issue. As for the one they captured, plant a poison seed in him, then release him. As for the rest, dispose of them all. Understood. Handle them all. Understood. Also, sect leader, my antidote for this month. Someone will deliver it to you." "Yes, sect leader. Your humble servant would go through fire and water for you, and would die without regret." Before the man could finish pledging his loyalty, Master Lung had already hung up the phone. Master Lung turned around, walked up to the man with the slick back hair, and said, "Captain Wong, please help me track down a young man by following the traces in the snow." "Sure thing. Leave it to me." Captain Wong agreed readily. Then he turned and went to make arrangements. Before long, several drones followed the clear footprints left on the snow, and flew into the snowy forest. The two disciples behind Master Lung exchanged glances, and from each other's eyes, they both saw surprise. As one of the deputy directors of the Alchemy Hall of the Burt City Hunters Guild, Master Lung held a noble status in Burt City. At the same time, his temperament was also a subject of criticism. Solitary, indifferent, and unsociable. It was widely known that, as his disciples, they had been accepted into his tutelage. The outcome was mixed on the bright side, with Master Lung's reputation backing them. They successfully entered Burt City's elite circles. On the downside, after a simple evaluation by Master Lung, he seemed somewhat disappointed. He often secluded himself to study potions, rarely providing guidance. They were disciples in name, but there was little substance to the master-disciple relationship. This time they came to the wilderness, because Master Lung was missing a crucial herb, unable to proceed with his next research. Moreover, the herbs he needed were extremely obscure, requiring him to visit various wilderness towns to personally identify and purchase them. That was why these two disciples had the chance to accompany him, but they never expected that Master Lung would suddenly take an interest in a young man. Half an hour later, Master Lung found something a hunter came to report. Captain Wang took over the conversation. Old Wang connected the footage to the large screen. Lao Si, take some people and bring that young man over. On a modified cargo truck, the carriage was equipped with radar and various precision instruments. This was the fire control center of the Silver Fox Hunter Group. On a chair in front of the screen in the control center sat a girl with a graceful figure, a girl with delicate features. Around 16 or 17 years old, she wore a single-breasted beige coat that wrapped around her whole body, revealing only the black boots on her feet. On her head, she wore a black beret. Her hair was pinned up high, exposing her long, fair swan-like neck. She watched the scene on the screen with great interest. She was also very interested in the person that Master Lung was looking for. Following Captain Wang's order, the operator switched the drone footage to the screen. Master Lung and the girl sat before the screen. Captain Wang and the others stood nearby, craning their necks to watch. They too wanted to know who the lucky one was, who had caught the master's eye. On the screen, deep within the snowy forest, a black dot appeared. As the image zoomed in, it revealed a rather handsome young man. He sat on a hillock, chewing on food while gazing into the distance. His gaze gradually turned fierce. It was Du Xiao. Not bad picture quality. The young man Ding Yao behind Master Lung remarked. Don't even mention it. This scaled-down fire control system cost me over 300,000 gold coins, so it's only right that the screen is good. Captain Wang said, half proud and half pained. Soon, the screen split into two. One screen showed Du Xiao. The other showed Zhou Yuan. At that moment, Zhou Yuan was leaning against a tree trunk, panting heavily. Isn't that Zhou Yuan? Captain Wang said, startled and uncertain. Zhou Yuan? Does Captain Wang know him? If you do, use the drone to hail him and ask him to spare that young man's life. Ding Yao spoke up. One running, one chasing. Even a fool can see Zhou Yuan is hunting Du Xiao. The young man our teacher is looking for is in danger. He had to take the initiative to ease his teacher's worries. I've had a few business dealings with the Ma Consortium before. Met a few times, but not well acquainted. I can hail him, but I don't know if he'll give me that courtesy, even though he's only at the Qi and Blood realm. But after all, he was a member of the Ma Consortium, Captain Wang said awkwardly. As an origin practitioner at the opening aperture realm, toying with an ordinary Blood Qi realm cultivator was naturally no issue for him. But Zhou Yuan was a member of the Ma Consortium, and even when beating a dog, one must consider its owner. He could only try, dare not threaten or make enemies. Of course, this is only when there are outsiders present. Master Lung waved his hand and said, no need to rush, let's wait and see. This Zhou Yuan is off. His qi and blood are scattered. His vital energy is insufficient. Captain Wang suddenly said, as a veteran hunter team that has been traversing the wilderness year-round. He had also been to the nearby dense forest. Its area is not small. It could easily exhaust an ordinary person to death. But you're saying it wore out a Qi and Blood Realm origin cultivator to this state? That is absolutely impossible. A city, even the lowest level for fortress city, still has a population of at least over 100 million. with such a huge population base. Those who can cultivate origin power and become chi and blood realm origin cultivators. Number less than 10,000. The power of the chi and blood realm utterly surpasses ordinary people's imagination. Moreover, Zhou Yuan is not an ordinary chi and blood realm cultivator, but one with over a dozen Dao values. Ding Yao also came to his senses. It was indeed strange. Maybe he was injured. Not only was the person on the screen strange, Zhou Yuan himself was also bewildered. Zhou Yuan leaned on a tree, gazing at the pristine, white snow layer and a string of footprints that marred the scenery. He couldn't help cursing, "You little bastard. He can really freaking run." As he stopped, a sense of exhaustion from long journey swept over him. The shock and confusion on Zhou Yuan's face grew larger. No, with such a short distance. How could a cultivator at the Qi blood realm feel exhausted? Zhou Yuan sensed his own Qi and blood. With a horrified look, he discovered that a large portion of it had dissipated. What's going on? How could Qi and blood dissipate? Zhou Yuan was extremely puzzled. He had no hidden injuries, nor was he wounded. And there were originally over 10 strands of Qi and blood inside his body. How did it dissipate to only 2 strands left? Along the way, he was driven crazy by Du Xiu's messages. His mindset completely shattered. For a moment, he hadn't noticed what was happening inside his body. After thinking for a long time, Zhou Yuan came to a conclusion. Someone had poisoned him. In the wilderness, the art of poison was considered lowbrow. At range, use firepower suppression. Up close, strike with heavy fists. Poison, that despicable low-class method, was extremely troublesome to prepare. To poison a cultivator to death. At the very least, an apothecary would have to personally handle it. But even if the poison was prepared, a new problem arose. Administering the poison was troublesome. There were only a few ways. Through the mouth, nose, or skin. If a cultivator had even a bit of vigilance, they could neutralize it. With that time, an apothecary could casually brew some other potion and make a huge profit. Why bother with such an unrewarding task? The reward didn't match the effort. Zhou Yuan was puzzled about who had poisoned him, but he didn't suspect Du Xiu. In his eyes, Du Xiu was at most 16 years old. A poison pharmacist, still a pharmacist after all. A 16-year-old pharmacist? No way. With that kind of skill, he doesn't go to the Hunter Guild to make a name for himself, but holes up in the mines as a little mine slave. Zhou Yuan sensed the power within him. Although he was very weak, dealing with a frail, underage mine slave was still no trouble at all. Zhou Yuan snorted coldly. "Wang Fang, just you wait. When I get back, I'll settle accounts with you over this poisoning." It was most likely Wang Fang's doing. Only he had the opportunity. He had motive wealth moves people's hearts. If I died, the benefits of this deal, he could pocket all by himself. In front of the screen, everyone saw Zhou Yuan's suspicious expression. Clearly, he had noticed his own condition, but he gritted his teeth and continued the pursuit. Couldn't help sighing inwardly. How deep must a grudge be? Just killing relentlessly. Meanwhile, in the other half of the screen, Du Xiu stood in the snowy forest, looking around calmly. Finally, he chose a spot. There, he started building a snowman. This move left everyone speechless. The situation was already urgent, yet he was still building a snowman, such refined leisure. Another young man beside Master Lung, Yang Tiyuan, showed a sneer. "Master, I think this kid has given up resisting." Master Lung also frowned, although he didn't think Du Xiu was just playing with a snowman. After all, a genius pharmacist who poisoned dozens of guards is no fool. But building a snowman offered no help to his current survival situation. Indeed, it was of no use. The best course now was to quickly continue fleeing. As everyone was thinking different things, Du Xiu had already finished building the snowman and wrote a few words beneath it. "I'm your daddy." The view zoomed in again, showing the words on the ground. Everyone was stifling laughter again. The kid must have been pushed to the edge, even starting to curse. They were almost certain that Du Xiu was just giving up on himself. Just as they were shaking their heads and sighing, Du Xiu did another baffling thing. He fixed his gaze on a certain spot, then took his backpack and hurled it over there with all his might. After that, he carefully retraced his steps, heading back toward Zhou Yuan. What is he doing? Zhou Yuan, Isen, far from him at all. Going back now is just asking for death. From their omniscient perspective, They could see that Du Xiu and Zhou Yuan weren't far apart. Another disciple of Master Lung. A flicker of excitement crossed Yang Tuyuan's face. Although he didn't know why Master Lung thought so highly of Du Xiu. As long as Du Xiu died, everything would be fine, his thought was. Not because he held a grudge against Du Xiu, but as a disciple of an apothecary. He naturally didn't want an extra competitor. Pharmaceutical knowledge is not like ordinary teaching. One teacher can teach a class of 50 or 60 students. The vast and complex foundational knowledge of pharmacy means that an apothecary's energy is limited. Each student has different difficulties they don't understand. Neglecting one thing for another is the most common conflict. When an apothecary guides apprentices, "Hey," he turned again. "Look," Ding Yao exclaimed. On the screen, Du Xiu suddenly turned at a certain point. The trail of footprints originally had all been along higher ground. Now, Du Xiu's direction. It was a downhill slope leading to the side. A line of footprints was left on the downward slope. Everyone was once again confused and disoriented. With such thick snow, every step would leave a pit. Such obvious traces could never be hidden. He left footprints here. Zhou Yuan stood on the slope. The footprints on the downward slope were clearly visible. At a glance, one could see where he had gone. If he really fled from here, Zhou Yuan would simply follow this direction to chase. If he didn't flee from here, the footprints would abruptly end, and Zhou Yuan would surely realize. This was Du Xiu's attempt to mislead. Completely unnecessary. No, he jumped behind a rock, just as everyone thought this was a foolish move. Du Xiu was somewhere on the downward slope, bending his knees, half crouching, swinging his arms, leaping forward, landing perfectly behind a massive rock. That was the only blind spot. If one looked from the uphill slope, Du Xiu's footprints at the spot where he jumped simply vanished. Impressive. Someone couldn't help but exclaim. This method wasn't particularly clever, but to come up with it in such a short time was indeed no easy feat. Yang Tuan snorted coldly, just being clever for cleverness' sake. Once Zhou Yuan discovers that the footprints in front of the snowman have stopped, he will surely turn around and continue searching. At that point, Du Xiu will still be caught. Commander Wang glanced at him. Though Yang Tuyuan's words were harsh, they were true. It had just snowed, and with such thick snow cover, a Qi Blood Realm expert hunting a miner was clearly a dead-end situation with no chance of survival. Du Xiu could play clever tricks 10,000 times, but once he made a single mistake, letting Zhou Yuan catch up to him, it would just be a matter of one shot or one slap. The only way to be saved now, it's that his people are rushing over. But judging by the distance, I'm afraid his people won't get there anytime soon. And Master Lung also wouldn't let him use the drone to shout and save the person. How strange. Captain Wang lowered his head and thought for a moment, then shifted his gaze back to the screen. On the screen, Zhou Yuan followed the footprints, getting closer and closer to Du Xiu. He suddenly stopped in his tracks, turned and looked to the side. On the downhill slope beside him, there was a row of footprints. He had been tracking them all the way. He often encountered situations where there were 2 or 3 sets of footprints leading in different directions ahead. This was a diversion left by Du Xiu. First go in another direction, leave footprints, then step back into the footprints in the snow, return to the starting point, and continue forward. Because the snow was deep, stepping on it only left a deep hole, making it impossible to tell the direction of the footprints. Zhou Yuan also couldn't be sure. Every time he encountered this situation, Zhou Yuan would leap onto the trees. Gazing into the distance, he would spot the branching footprints, not stretching too far, and immediately determine they were fake. But this time, there was no need to climb a tree. A simple glance, while standing still, told him they were fake. It seemed Du Xiu had also reached his limit, perhaps too exhausted to think clearly, to make such a foolish move. The audience before the screens watched Zhou Yuan continue onward. Some marveled at Du Xiu's cunning and audacity. Others lamented that Du Xiu was just under that boulder. Zhou Yuan had almost gotten him. Zhou Yuan pressed forward. Not far away, at the foot of the slope, a snowman stood there. Across the snowman's mouth was a branch curved upward at both ends, seeming to hold a hint of a smile. Still smiling even at death's door, Zhou Yuan followed the footprints onward. saw the words on the ground, and instantly flew into a rage. On the ground, for words were clearly written. I am your daddy. It turns out that swear words have been passed down through countless generations without dying out. There is indeed some truth to that, at least when it comes to provoking anger. They possess unmatched offensive power. Zhou Yuan picked up the P90 and fired a burst to the snowman. The rapidly fired bullets blasted the snowman and the words beneath it into pieces. Just then, behind Zhou Yuan, a sudden burst of gunfire rang out. Du Xiu from the downhill slope had crept up and hidden behind a rock, raising his submachine gun and firing a burst to Zhou Yuan. The moment the gunfire sounded, Zhou Yuan's hair stood on end instantly, and he reflexively dropped into a prone roll. The bullet struck the snow, kicking up countless snowflakes. Zhou Yuan took cover behind a tree, a look of shock on his face. How the hell did that little brat get behind me? Zhou Yuan had no time to ponder this question. A sharp pain shot through his arm, pulling him back to reality. He lowered his head to check the injury. He was still shot, but fortunately it didn't hit the bone. Zhou Yuan's expression relaxed slightly, but his desire to kill Du Xiu grew stronger. First, he needed to change positions. Fighting here was disadvantageous. At this moment, his current position was relatively flat with sparse trees. Even the tree trunk he was using for cover could not completely conceal his body. Half of it was exposed. He glanced to the side. Not far away, there was a depression in the ground. Bending low, he quickly moved to hide there. Du Xiu was probably reloading his magazine. There was no attack while he was moving. Once in safety, a sneer appeared on Zhou Yuan's face. Kid, I'm gonna have some fun with you. As Zhou Yuan took off his backpack, preparing for light combat, the corner of his eye suddenly caught sight of a backpack on the rim of this depression. He glanced at it, but ignored it. That brat must have decided to ambush him. Finding the backpack stuffed with food cumbersome, and carelessly tossed it here, right as Zhou Yuan was preparing to shift positions again. Circling around to Du Xiu's side, rapid gunfire erupted once more. Bullets struck the snowy ground, sending snowflakes flying and hitting the trees. Splinters dancing above Zhou Yuan's head. Crouching low, he couldn't help but sneer. In his eyes, Du Xiu was like a corner dog, unable to locate him, so he'd started firing wildly. Little did he know, wasting bullets like that was a sure way to die. Besides, that kind of frantic shooting, with its massive recoil, was bound to give him a world of pain. For an old hunter, to hunt prey, one must precisely calculate stamina and ammunition. With Du Xiu like this, Zhou Yuan actually felt relaxed. In this position, as long as he didn't move, Du Xiu would absolutely never be able to hit him. He waited calmly for Du Xiu to waste all his bullets. During the gap, when the enemy was changing magazines, he could quickly close in, whether it was comparing mid to long-range shooting accuracy or close-quarters combat. Zhou Yuan was 100% confident that he could utterly crush Du Xiu to death. This round, the advantage is mine. Just as Zhou Yuan was looking relaxed, suddenly he sniffed. What's that smell? Something's burning. A burnt odor hit him. He looked up and saw Du Xiu's backpack had been hit by a dense spray of bullets. It must have contained flint stones, and they had already caught fire. No, this smell is wrong. It wasn't just a burnt smell. Just as he sensed something was off, when he stood up to prepare for relocation, he suddenly felt a wave of dizziness. What is this? Zhou Yuan's vision went completely black, and liquid flowed down his face. He touched the liquid on his face, but before he could discern what it was, a piercing pain shot through his heart. Blood from his eyes, ears, nose, and mouth flowed out together. Du Xiu, you? Zhou Yuan cried out in extreme anguish. Before he could utter a complete sentence, he collapsed onto the snowy ground and stopped breathing. The other side, Du Xiu collapsed onto the snowy ground. The pain from the continuous recoil of the gun, along with weariness, hunger, and drowsiness washed over him. Creping vine agentian ginseng, deadly poison, ground into powder after 7 days in the sun. When burned, it produces a rich fragrance. Damaged kidneys, withered meridians. Angelica root plus charcoal grass plus quartz flower. Highly toxic burning can cause blindness. Hallucinogenic, loss of taste. Baiguan incense plus ground bone flower. Highly toxic burning can cause cardiac arrest, brain death, Duxu l'esprit de gold, completely collapsed in the snow. Feeling the softness of the snow, he muttered to himself, if all these poisons couldn't kill Zhou Yuan, then he had no other options. He simply couldn't run anymore. He had been in the snow, running for over 10 hours. To make it this far, both his spirit and stamina had reached their limits. Du Xiu looked up at the sky, the drifting white clouds, at the snow on the tree trunks, shaken loose by the wind. The tension in his heart gradually eased. This is it. I can't keep going. I've done my best. If ed, the world instantly fell silent, just as Du Xiu was enjoying the brief silence. Suddenly, a piercing pain struck his mind. The headache struck again. The intense pain caused Du Xiu to curl up. A pained expression appeared on his face. Soon his eyes rolled back, showing the whites, and he fell into a coma. The audience before the screens. Everyone was left in a daze. As for Master Lung, his originally stiff face, as Zhou Yuan fell to the ground dead, unconsciously curled into a smile at the corners of his mouth. Interesting. Having seen all this, he turned and left. This interesting young man would soon appear before him. After Master Lung left, the remaining people began chattering all at once. How did that kid kill Zhou Yuan? My God, I actually witnessed an ordinary person kill a Qi blood realm expert. I didn't quite get it. Anyway, I think this guy is quite sinister. He might well be a menace to the Empire. The remaining people. Until the end, I still couldn't understand how Du Xiu killed Zhou Yuan. After a moment, the girl said in an uncertain voice, in the backpack were flint and poison. The bullet hit the flint. The flint ignited, and the poison vaporized, killing Zhou Yuan. He used the footprints to vanish, then circled behind Zhou Yuan. He left insulting words to anger Zhou Yuan, built a snowman to give Zhou Yuan a target for his anger. While Zhou Yuan was venting his anger, he attacked from behind. No, that's wrong. The placement of the snowman and the insulting words was also carefully planned. There, the terrain was relatively flat. The only suitable place to hide was right below the backpack. The location where the backpack was placed was also something he had predicted in advance. After she finished speaking, she looked at the screen. Du Xiu lay unconscious on the ground. Only terror remained in her heart. She had witnessed Du Xiu standing in the snow, looking around for 5 or 6 minutes, and then thought of this entire arrangement. Throughout all, Du Xiu had shown no significant change in expression. His heart was like stone, his wisdom surpassing demons. In the girl's mind, these 8 words surfaced. No, it can't be that terrifying, can it? Are you sure it's not a coincidence? A cadre of the Hunter Corps spoke stiffly. No, it's absolutely not a coincidence. He had calculated all of this. A single misstep or a wrong move, and he would have been the one dead. The girl shook her head. Every single action of Du Xiu flashed through her mind, each full of profound meaning. Too terrifying, seeing the girl defend Du Xiu. Yang Tiyuan said with some indignation. At the end of the day, it was that poison that was truly formidable. The girl didn't even spare Yang Tiyuan a glance, simply because he had the look of someone doomed to an early death. No one else bothered to respond to him either. The poison was indeed formidable, but Du Xiu himself was even more so. As everyone knew, Yang Tiyuan had a crush on this well-connected girl. It was only natural for a young man, seeing the girl he liked, admire another boy, to make a few sour remarks. None of them had considered that this potion came from Du Xiu's own hand. In their eyes, Master Lung had come to save Du Xiu of his own accord, which meant they had a prior connection. With Master Lung's friendship backing him, it was only natural that he would have a few potions on hand, and that was perfectly reasonable. Du Xiu struggled to lift his heavy eyelids. What greeted his eyes were 2 light strips installed on a pink car ceiling, casting a soft beige glow. He smelled the milky fragrance on the blanket. It wasn't hard to tell that he had been rescued, and that he was in a woman's room. Du Xiu looked around cautiously. Based on the interior, he figured he was in a moving RV. The faint roar of the engine hummed in his ears. Whether it was due to the vehicle's excellent suspension or the driver's skilled handling, as they traveled across the wilderness, Du Xiu didn't feel much bumpiness, compared to when he drove himself, which felt like being on a boat. This was 100 times better. Nearby, the girl was lying on the table, resting her chin on her hands. A glistening thread of drool hung from the corner of her mouth. She looked as if she might fall asleep any moment. Du Xiu struggled to sit up. The pain from his body made the corners of his mouth twitch involuntarily. He pulled back the blanket to check his injuries. His original clothes had been changed by someone else, leaving only his shorts, preserving the last shred of a man's privacy. A large swelling on the shoulder. A large patch of frostbite on the left leg. The wound on the calf had been treated with medicinal herbs. After bandaging, a slight stinging sensation from the herbs could be felt through the bandage. The swelling on the shoulder seemed to have been treated as well. Compared to the snow forest, the soreness at this moment had greatly diminished. As Du Xiu got up, making a sound, the girl opened her eyes sleepily, subconsciously wiping away drool. Seeing Du Xiu looking at her calmly, on the girl's fair face, a blush quickly rose. A little awkward. "You're awake." The girl pretended nothing was wrong. Changing the subject, she said, "Thank you for saving me, miss. Where are you planning to go?" "It wasn't me who saved you. It was Master Lung's orders. We were on our way to Burt City. We'll arrive in 3 days, Master Lung." "Who is Master Lung?" "Huh? You don't know Master Lung?" The girl was stunned upon hearing this. "I don't know him." Du Xiu shook his head. The only master he knew was a certain Ma. Dead. He'd buried him with his own hands. "That's strange. The camp where you rested was a detour we took on Master Lung's orders. The snowy forest where you were unconscious was also searched on Master Lung's orders. I thought you knew Master Lung." "Master Lung is a pharmacist." "Yes, a very skilled pharmacist. The Silver Fox Hunter group outside took the mission from the Hunter Guild to protect Master Lung." Hearing the girl's words, Du Xiu fell into deep thought. A very skilled pharmacist. What did he have that warranted a master pharmacist coming to his rescue? And how did they know he was in the dense forest? Only those who knew his whereabouts were Lien Ruofei and Wang Feng's group. First, eliminate Lien Ruofei. In his social circle, the most formidable person he knew was probably himself. That leaves Wang Feng and his people. Although Wang Feng was ostensibly part of the consortium, his appearance in the wilderness must have been for some other purpose. Du Xiu recalled that after meeting Zhou Yuan, the other party kept probing, trying to fish for his background. It was clearly ill-intentioned, most likely to silence him. By the way, during the standoff that day, there was a sound of smashing from inside Zhou Yuan's convoy. It was highly likely they had kidnapped someone. That person was probably from the consortium, of no low status, and they were afraid news would leak, so they wanted to silence him. When Wang Feng saw that Zhou Yuan hadn't returned, he must have reported this matter to their trading partner. Master Lung should be from the faction of Wang Feng's trading partner. He might have come here to check on why Zhou Yuan was taking so long to return. Following this line of thought, it would explain why Master Lung changed course to look for him. But reasoning this way, shouldn't Master Lung have directly killed him to silence him? Why would he still save him? The Silver Fox Hunter group's mission was to protect Master Lung. If the latter wanted to kill a wilderness youth, the Silver Fox Hunter group probably wouldn't have said much. Out in the wilderness, there's no such thing as law. Du Xiu vaguely sensed something, but the logic wasn't coherent. Seeing Du Xiu lost in thought, the girl looked at him curiously. What Du Xiu didn't know was that his series of movements killing Zhou Yuan had all been observed by the girl. Not only her, but almost the entire Silver Fox Hunter group and Master Lung and the others had witnessed it all firsthand. As Du Xiu picked his spot, built a snowman and wrote swear words to anger Zhou Yuan, threw the backpack somewhere, then stepped back in his own footprints and hid in the snow. Finally, the young man held a submachine gun, used a firestone to ignite the poison powder, killed a Qi Blood Realm cultivator. This left a group of people stunned. Gurguduk su stomach gold. The girl let out a chuckle, revealing lovely dimples. Then she raised her wrist, glanced at the time on her watch. Her eyes narrowed into crescent moons as she said, "You've been unconscious for a whole day and night. You must be hungry. It's almost 7 o'clock. The convoy will be stopping soon to set up camp. There are clothes next to you. Change and go down to get something to eat."